Entering 2023 fantasy football season and fantasy drafts. Here's a few wide receivers I think will be bust this year. The first guy, Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. So last season, no doubt about it, Cooper, he proved me wrong, where he had a breakout year once again after the Dallas Cowboys pretty much dumped him off for a 5th-round pick. Last year, 78 catches, 1,160 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. So last year, believe it or not, Cooper, he was better with Jacoby Brissett in the lineup than he was with Deshaun Watson. And now, this year, Deshaun Watson, he has a whole training camp, no off-the-field issues bothering him. And I think he's going to spread that football around and look to run a lot as well. And when you got a top 5 running back like Nick Chubb in the backfield as well, that's going to take some things away from Cooper. And also they added Elijah Moore in a trade with the New York Jets as his Cleveland Brown team. So more weapons on the offense. Like I said, Cooper and Watson, they didn't have the greatest of rapports last season. And right now, one of the main reasons I have him as a bust going into the year is Cooper. I just don't like his ADP. He's going 3rd, 4th round in leagues. And I'd rather have, honestly, guys like this Calvin Ridley over Amari Cooper this year. Christian Watson, possibly, I'd rather have than Amari Cooper. Mike Williams, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf. So players in that range near Amari Cooper, I'd rather have on my fantasy team than him. Because like I said, him and Watson weren't on the same page really last year. They got a lot of weapons where Watson, we know, likes to spread the football around. And right now, he's another year older as Cooper. And there's games where, obviously, especially on the road, he disappears. At home, he's a great wide receiver. But if you're only going to get 8 or 9 great games and a lot of duds out of him, that's definitely a turn. And definitely, that's a wide receiver that could be in the bust category. The next wide receiver is Deebo Samuel. The San Francisco 49ers. So Deebo Samuel, injuries have been a concern on and off over the last few years. I know right now he's a wide receiver going 4th round about. But right now in this offense, it's all about Christian McCaffrey, I believe, for the San Francisco 49er team. So Deebo last year, 56 catches, 632 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and he also ran 42 times for 232 rush yards and 3 touchdowns. So obviously, I think most of the running is going to be gone. There's no need to have Deebo Samuel anymore with his injury concerns over the last few seasons. Be a running back with Christian McCaffrey there and E.Y. Mitchell being the spell guy, where he's good for maybe 8 to 10 touches. So that's going to be production gone from him. Then you got Brandon Ayuk, who's been turning into a solid number 2 wide receiver. And George Kittle's going to get his as well, with Brock Purdy most likely being the starting quarterback if he's healthy by week 1, because Trey Lance, he's been a wreck so far in training camp. So right now, with injury concerns, Christian McCaffrey being the vocal point over there in the offense and Purdy being more of a game manager than anything, I don't think Deebo Samuel's going to have a great season. And how could you really trust him after the last couple years? He's been banged up, is Deebo Samuel. So I don't like his ADP. I'd rather have wide receivers in that range like a Calvin Ridley. I'd rather have a Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf. So all those guys, a lot of these wide receivers I'm mentioning are in the same range here. And Deebo Samuel, just with the injuries and the way this offense might run, is a wide receiver I think will bust because of his ADP. If he was a 6th or 7th rounder, then I think that's good value. But right now in the 4th round, I don't think it's great value for Deebo Samuel. And going off of that, I think he's a bust this year. The next wide receiver is Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Bucks. So Chris Godwin and Tom Brady had a good rapport. We know Godwin's a possession wide receiver. But now going into the year with either Trisket or Baker Mayfield as a starting quarterback over there, I'm not going to have much confidence in Chris Godwin. And he's only a year removed from the ACL injury as well. So last year he did catch 100 balls, 104 catches, 1,023 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he's not really a touchdown guy as well over the last few years. He is Godwin. So he's getting a downgrade, in my opinion, in quarterback. They're going to look to run the football more with Rachaad White over there. Is this Tampa Bay Buck team, and Vaughn as the running backs most likely, or Johnson. And just poor play in the offensive line got a little bit weaker as well. So right now, while he's going into the 4th, 5th round here, is Chris Godwin, there's definitely a handful of receivers I'd rather have than him as well. Mike Williams, Christian Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, I'll put in that. Tyler Lockett, I'd rather have than Godwin this season more. So wide receivers like that, I'd rather take over Chris Godwin. They got better situations over there with their teams. And like I said, Godwin's coming off an injury last year with the ACL, and he did come back a little bit early, but the production was on and off for him. And now to get a downgraded quarterback, that's not going to help as well. So he's definitely a receiver I think's a bust. this year. The next receiver is Deontay Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Deontay Johnson, him and Ben Roethlisberger, they had a good rapport a few years ago, but obviously Big Ben hung him up finally last season, and him and Pickett just weren't really on the same page. 86 catches, 882 receiving yards, and no touchdowns, and that's a huge problem. So I know this passing game, they got some weapons over there, obviously. You got Pat Freiermuth, you got George Pickens, who people are expecting a big season. But Deontay Johnson, at this point of his career, he's more of a route runner. And yes, he's a possession guy that he's going to get 80 to 100 catches, no doubt about it, but the touchdowns aren't going to be there. A lot of short yard, 3-4 yard route catches and out of bounds we've seen from Johnson. And I just think right now, going in the 6th or 7th round, he's not really a receiver I like in that position. I've been seeing Mike Williams go after him, Hollywood Brown, Christian Watson's in that range. I'd rather have him as well in that area. DJ Moore's in that area. So receivers like that, I'd rather have than a Deontay Johnson this season. Even a George Pickens, I think, has a better season his teammate than he does in terms of fantasy points and in terms of impact. It's a flex option. I think you could live with Johnson, but I wouldn't be that enthused with him as a flex option. So after last season, a down year, and with this Steeler team trying to get the big plays and chunk plays this year, I don't think Johnson's going to be a wide receiver I really have confidence in. And I think he's a bust this season. And the 5th and final wide receiver, I think's a bust. Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. Drake London, I like him as a talent, but I just don't like his ADP as well. Going about 50th overall in most fantasy drafts here is Drake London. So right now, Riddler is the quarterback over there in Atlanta. A lot of mouths to feed. You got Bijan Robinson. You got that number one run offensive line over there in Atlanta. And they're going to run the football a whole lot. Last season, London, he had some great games, no doubt about it. And then some games he disappeared and he didn't even reach 5 fantasy points. So last year in his rookie year, 72 catches, 866 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. I know Marcus Mariota isn't there anymore, where Ritter, he's not going to run the football, obviously, as much as Mariota. But it's going to be tough still, I believe, for Ritter to get to the football to the Drake London and his receivers consistently. And they're going to be a run-heavy team. A lot here is this Atlanta Falcon team. So right now, while his ADP, like I said, he's about 50th is Drake London. There's other receivers I'd rather have than him in that range. I'd rather have Metcalf. I'd rather have Mike Williams. Calvin Ridley is going in that range. Brandon Ayuk, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Watson. Right now, if London, he was a 6th or 7th rounder, then I don't think he'd be a bust. But right now, where he's going, and with the expectations as well, he's definitely a bust in my mind, just off of those things. And his quarterback isn't good at all, really, at Ritter. So that's a few wide receivers that I think will be busts here, entering the 2023 fantasy football season.